Cinema Savvy, and welcome back to our Mandalorian reviews. We're a little bit late to the party on this one, so as you can see from the title, we usually do these individual weekly ones, but as we're a bit late, we're condensing it, so we're going to cover Chapter 6, The Prisoner, and Chapter 7, The Reckoning. Definitely a lot more to talk about in Chapter 7, but we are going to kick off with Chapter 6, The Prisoner. We pretty much watched this right around the time that it was released. I know, George, you've said that your memory's a little bit hazy on it at the moment, but I think we're not going to talk about it all that much anyway. There's really not a whole lot to say about it inherently. The plot of it is essentially that Mando, again, sort of another sort of individual storyline that's happening that doesn't really, as far as we know at the moment, filter into the grand scheme of the actual narrative. He gets grouped into this all-star cast of weird aliens and creatures to go aboard a prison ship in order to break out a prisoner from there, because this gang is like an old member of their gang and they want him back, essentially. That's it. I didn't like this episode. I'd say it's probably my second least favorite. I still think Chapter 5 is the worst, the nostalgia episode that we talked at length about. This one it almost didn't feel like Star Wars to me in a way. I think that the dialogue was very modern. It was strange seeing certain celebrities in there because I couldn't unsee them from...
Is this Bill Burr?
Bill Burr, yeah.
I've never seen him in anything, but the entire world was saying for months, Bill Burr is the Mandalorian, Bill Burr this, Bill Burr that. Didn't like him. It probably helped that I didn't know, I've never seen his comedy. Maybe he's very funny. I might be wrong. But he had a weird Boston accent as well.
Yeah.
And I'm still recovering from hearing two Scottish accents in The Force Awakens. And that was 4 years ago. So it's, jump in there.
Yeah, no, so Bill Burr, actually only started watching his stuff earlier this year, I think. I did watch a bunch of his stand-up shows, and he is very funny. He's got a podcast as well, which I listen to. He jumps on with his wife sometimes as well. They've got like a really good back and forth on there. But because I have fairly recently watched a bunch of his stuff, it was just weird seeing him there. I didn't know if this was something he's always wanted to do, if he's always wanted to be part of Star Wars or a big blockbuster thing like that. I don't know. I know he's dabbled with acting like on small little bit parts before, but this was kind of a big break, I guess, in that way. But it was just weird seeing him because he wasn't really playing a character. It was Bill Burr playing Bill Burr. You did have some other great cast members in there, though. The always great Natalia Tennant in there as some kind of weird Twi'lek, but I don't know. Her character seemed very over the top, very un-Star Warsy. Reminded me a bit of like Harley Quinn kind of character, like very unhinged and just there. Clancy Brown, great character actor. But yeah, it felt like, I've described this episode, it felt like a bad episode of Doctor Who. It felt more Doctor Who-ish than Star Wars. Even the designs of like the robots, like the guard robots on the ship, didn't feel inherently Star Wars to me. It was very sort of like Battlestar Galactica or again Doctor Who. Maybe it was the makeup on the aliens or something. Something just fell off with this one to me.
I think my issue with the makeup was one thing. I'll jump to that. We kind of said yesterday in our big review that one thing you can't fault with certainly the recent films is that's the prosthetics and makeup, all of that. So when you drop down to TV budget, this is the first time to me Mandalorian felt like TV budget.
Yeah.
This was an episode, they bigged up having, if there's going to be loads of bounty hunters in this could be a really fun, cool, different sort of episode. And ultimately was very filler again. And the issue with this episode is about a crew. I disliked the crew. I called it B-Tech Hellboy. Clancy Brown was.
Yeah.
Didn't like that. Didn't even know it's Clancy Brown until after. Richard, I spent an entire episode trying to figure out this robot sounds so much like Richard Iwadi. I just couldn't bring myself to think that it could have genuinely been Richard Iwadi. Didn't mind him in it, but all I could think of was the IT crowd. So it didn't take me out of it. But I just spent ages like, is this really Richard Iwadi? Could this be someone that sounds like him? But my issue is this episode's about the group, the crew, and unfortunately, I didn't gravitate towards any characters of said crew. Didn't like the banter between them.
You didn't even like the Gungan name drop in there.
No, I love my prequels. I love my references. That one didn't cut it for me. I love the pit droids the week before and anything I liked in that episode. But a Gungan name drop was just too on the nose. and coming from the comedian, it's kind of like, here's a cheap laugh at the prequels.
Poking fun at it, yeah.
That being said, there were some individual things I liked. The landing thing of the robot taking over the ship. I couldn't get over. I always forget his name. Is it Mark Boone or?
Yeah. Let me just find it real quick. The guy from Batman Begins. You talk about, right? Yeah, Mark Boone Jr.
I couldn't unsee Bullock. Just this shady guy in a ship. It's Bullock. One of the other things I had. So that was the crew. And my issue of this being filler was that, we'd kind of ranted at length filler again. I can live with episode 4 being filler because, you can have one, had an end of an episode, sort of points it. But having 5 and then this in a row was a real stinger for me. Not to sit here and say what should have been done, what this, the other. I was expecting the prisoner to be tied into the plot. It could have been anyone. It could have been the Signs. I was just thinking this because the episode's titled The Prisoner. So I was expecting not a big reveal, not at all, but something to tie into the overarching story.
I was expecting some kind of bounty hunter, maybe that we've seen before, or I was thinking characters that could still be alive at this point or not completely aged up. I was thinking like Aura Singh, maybe. I didn't know if she was still alive, but then again, she was in Phantom Menace, so probably too old at this point in terms of the narrative.
Even in this series with that scientist guy that survived. It could have been Gus from Breaking Bad. It could have been Gina Carano who said she had a bounty on her head. We just got a Twi'lek that we know has a past with them. And straight away, here comes the inevitable plot twists. And we're going to chuck him in the cage. Now, what I will say, the final 20 minutes of the episode I really enjoyed. I did not like the first thing. I didn't like the setup. I didn't like the characters. But seeing, I don't want to say a slasher horror, but it kind of felt like Alien, where you had the Mandalorian just chasing down all these individuals across the next 20 minutes, and I really liked that.
Pick them up one by one, yeah. So I liked that. I did like that. The problem that I have is where they're all fine and they're all alive in a cell at the end. That felt like an absolute cop-out, specifically Clancy Brown's character, who I thought had a really cool death at first.
Yeah, that's what got me, was when the first door shut and then the second door shut on him. I was expecting his head to fall off or something.
Yeah, well, it would have cut him in like half, like lengthways, wouldn't it? And then all of a sudden he's fine and he's just like chilling on like a prison bed. I'm like, that felt, we can't kill them off. We can't go too near the mark. It's like it's still meant to be for kids as well, and these are fun, like colourful characters and stuff like that. But
I took it as sort of character development that he doesn't want to kill them because he's had this change of heart thing. That being said, I hope you don't see them again.
I think we will. I think they've kept it open, haven't they? So probably not this season, but certainly season 2. I'd expect that we'd see him back.
And then I did like, as we all love and adore Baby Yoda, just the footage of him hiding on the ship from the droid was priceless.
The ultimate hide and seek expert.
And it was that moment. Yeah, that seemed like, is he playing them on a bit? Like, he seemed to do well at hide and seek. Did a bit more than he's leading us on with. I love the moment where Mando shot him, and I did think for a millisecond it was Baby Yoda like deflecting a force bullet into him or something.
Well, we do see that bit as well. That was the episode, I think, where doesn't he sort of raise his hand up like he's about to use the force, Baby Yoda, but then yeah, that's it.
So I was thinking it could have been that, but I wasn't a big fan of the episodes. Not this left me in a bad place. It left me in a situation of, I feel fine now because I was episode 7. But if this had been like over a week ago, I think me and you would both be vexing quite hard. Whereas we're over it because of what's happened since.
It's frustrating because it did have I will say it had a shaky opening because of like the nostalgia stuff still. That still like really rubs me up the wrong way. But having seen where it's come now, especially with episode 7, bringing certain characters back from those first 2 episodes does make it feel more like a point. So, it had a fairly good first act. The second act, I think, of this story, when we see the complete thing, is really troublesome because it has just kind of meandered on without any focus, not really much bearing on the plot, and we have had a bunch of filler episodes. I'd say 4 to a lesser extent, because obviously we have Gina Carano's character coming back in 7, and maybe we'll have characters from episode 5 and 6 come back in the last episode. Feels like 8's going to have to juggle a lot though and tie a lot of stuff up, so I don't think it has the time to bring those characters back in just yet. But 4, 5, and 6, which is the bulk of your second act, which is the bulk of your series, it is very frustrating storytelling and doesn't really amount to much. We're going to get onto 7 now, but 7 really feels like we're getting into the final act of the story. We've finally transitioned now. The plot's finally found its footing and actually decided what it wants to do, and we can move on. Honestly, you could, as it stands, you can pretty much remove episodes 6 and 5 out of it completely and just go like 1, 2, 3, 4. You can pretty much jump straight to 7 and you wouldn't have missed anything. But 7's the one we need to talk about. So Chapter 7, The Reckoning. I watched this earlier today. I know that it was debuted on Wednesday, so kind of a day essentially before Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. Now, this isn't a Rise of Skywalker review, so you can check our videos out for that. And I know that JX in the comments at the moment isn't seeing the movie till tomorrow, so I don't want to spoil anything, but you did mention this to me, and I did wonder if they were going to do this. We discussed this a bit before we went live, whether it was intentional or a complete coincidence that it happened this way. There is something that happens in this episode that similarly happens in Rise of Skywalker, which has been quite a controversial thing on a lot of the reviews.
We
can't really talk in depth about it. That's the thing.
I'm going to say we are introduced to a new force power via Baby Yoda, and that force power may or may not be in episode 9.
Mm-hmm.
However, from my perspective, I'll say first, I watched this on Wednesday morning. So I think the reason they moved this date was because obviously legally, obviously we can't see this yet. Wednesday, you had the Mandalorian come out, so Friday was episode 9 for America.
Mm-hmm.
That was the structure and choice of that. Does make sense. You don't want Mando to come out the same day as a film. Obviously, for us, it made it the same day. So I watched this at like 9:30 in the morning after 2 hours sleep. It was not a pleasant night's sleep. However, this episode was very pleasant indeed. But no, jumping ahead to that force power moment. Personally, I think it's probably something that Lucasfilm have wanted to put into content over the. I don't know when, but I'm trying not to spoil it. Sorry. I think it's a force power they've probably had an idea about. Probably a force power that I can imagine Lucas have doing something similar once as well. I just think it was purely coincidental that ended up being used twice on the same week.
Mm-hmm.
If Mando had started a week later or a week earlier, I just think it's one of those things. It was very coincidental, but that made it very weird watching episode 9. It was like, oh, this happened 12 hours ago. Very different uses of it. And that's what I'm going to say on that. Is that fair? I don't want to spoil it for anyone that hasn't seen 9.
Yeah. I don't want to spoil it either. I was going to say, when it happens in the movie, I did think it was kind of cheap and a little bit bullshit how they handled it, but I'm wondering if I would have had the same thoughts on it had I have seen this before seeing episode 9. I won't know because I didn't.
Yeah.
But
that's what I'm like now. If I'd have, because we've vice versa it kind of.
Yeah.
I think I wouldn't have liked it as much if I'd seen 9 first and then this, because I saw it in this and it being done by Baby Yoda.
That's the thing. So when I watched it today and it happened, I was fine with it because I'm sort of used to it now. I've accepted it, and obviously with Baby Yoda doing it, that does help as well.
I think what it is, I just think for this one it was I think it's an idea that's probably floated around for a while.
Yeah.
And I think, to be fair, for both uses of it, obviously this is an episode review, I think it did serve the plot more so than like an individual moment. So at least it has that for itself. It's not like a one-off thing in 9. Obviously, Mando's not finished yet, so we don't know if it is a one-off. It could be, it might not be. So we'll find out next week, and obviously any season 2 stuff. But that's what I can say on that one, maybe.
Yeah. JXC's actually just brought up a really good point, which I never even thought about. He's put, we need someone to watch the kid. Do we ask the woman who was more than willing to do it a couple of episodes ago, or do we go to the strange hermit who has no experience with children? Did they dispatch of all those like encroachers in episode 4, or were they still some out there that could possibly attack the village at some point?
I think there were probably 1 or 2 there. They probably accepted their loss. I just think it made sense story-wise to go to who they did. I know we're jumping kind of to a sort of second, third episode. it needed to be that character that took it on. I think it had a better connection to that character. I don't think dropping off another planet would have worked. I think Mando's not going to let it be at a planet and go to another one purely because the bounty hunt is still going for Baby Yoda.
Yeah. And the thing is, he is a hermit and he does trust him. Like, he does say in the episode, like, he's always very cagey around everyone, but he does trust this guy. Like, they have gone through some stuff together and he has sort of proven himself at this point. Going sort of back to the beginning of the episode, then it was great to see Gina Carano back. She's one of my favorite characters in this series. She's an absolute badass, and she's awesome. I love her back and forth with Mando. They're sort of equally matched, as we said in episode 4 when we saw them fight, and we get to see a fight again in this episode. And it was something new. It was something different. I like in Star Wars where you see these sort of games or sports or whatever, whether it's the pod racing or whether it's in Coruscant, in the bar in Attack of the Clones, there's like those TVs of like different races and other like gambling things going on. I like to see that side of Star Wars. So this weird kind of, place your bets on these fighters and they're chained in the middle with like this laser connection thing. Like they have to do close quarters combat. That was pretty cool to see. That was something different. So I really enjoyed that. This is the one where it felt like, we're getting towards the end now and we are bringing these characters back, and it is what we essentially wanted from the beginning, where we said we won't be able to pass a fair judgment on this until it's all finished, but we're hoping that going to all these characters will sort of come together at the end for the final act, and it seems like they are doing that.
Yeah, and I think that was very important for this. Was we know the kind of plot of this was Mando is just going to go and try and take out the client. He needs to end this now. That's essentially the message of the episode. So obviously we get Gina Carano return, we get Nick Nolte's Ugnaught return, who we do learn his name in this episode. Is it like Quill or Queel?
Queel, wasn't it? Queel.
Something like that. Queel with a squeal. And I really like the fact they kind of teamed up. We had what's his name, Apollo Creed, come in back as well. I was like, listen, I'm going to help you do this. So it was essentially that kind of traditional TV type that here's the end of the season, here's some people coming back together, and we're going to have them confront the Emperor and win and save the day. Then I will say we had a very interesting moment where basically they get attacked by some weird demon pterodactyls. Killed some of them weird little beasts, which was quite sad. Not sad, more Nick Nolte's reaction to them taking away his lift home. And then I think that was a cool little scene, but the point of that scene was a force power, which we can't discuss. That leads to essentially why do I keep forgetting Carl Weathers' name?
You just got it.
he does like a triple turn. Like he was going to turn on them, he decided not to turn on them, so he will turn on the Emperor instead. So he kind of tells them of his plan. Says,
you say the Emperor? Sorry.
Well, the Empire.
Empire. I thought you said Emperor. Sorry, I'm like,
sorry, I've probably said Emperor so much the last few days that.
Yeah. No, that's fair enough.
But the remnants that are left, they're going to confront the client. They set up a plan to basically bluff him and save the day. And it doesn't go well. Is it fair to jump into the kind of final scene?
Well, just before we get to the final scene, you mentioned about the force power that's in episode 9 we can't talk about. We do see another force power in this episode by Baby Yoda when he force chokes Gina Carano.
Yes.
That was because, Baby Yoda's all like really cute and everything. Adorable is one of the most adorable things in like the last few years. I'm so paternal to this fictional character that I watched at a TV show. But then he does this and it's like, he's doing it because he feels like Mando's in harm and he's doing it out of protecting him. But just to see, like, let alone a Jedi, but like a little baby, and especially because it's like Yoda, who's inherently good in Star Wars, to force choke someone, it did like make me go, oh shit, like this could be, I don't think he's going to be like a grey Jedi or anything like that, but he's more unpredictable now. Like he's not just like the cutesy factor. He could potentially be very dangerous. Should he not rein his powers in.
It's like Magneto at the start of sort of First Class, like when they shoot his mom and he starts crumpling all the helmets on all the soldiers and everything like that. I completely forgot about that scene. That was a great moment because you're right. It was okay. He's a toddler. I think the point of that was that because he's so young, he doesn't have the balance of the power. But it reminds me of Harry Potter films where they say when the wizards are young, have you ever done things that are out of your control that you're just doing them because of a feeling, etc., etc. That's what it felt like, and that was a really hard scene because you've enjoyed both characters, and you kind of feel sorry for Baby Yoda because he's just doing it, sort of to protect his family. And I can't remember as to why Gina Carano was raising her voice to Mandalorian.
They were arm wrestling, and I think Mando. I thought when I first saw it, and he does the force face, I thought he was going to sort of force push Mando's arm down to win the arm wrestling thing, but then she starts choking. I was like, and he's doing the whole Vader little squeeze thing with his fingers. What's interesting though as well is that maybe this is just them doing it and they don't think about it because we know these force powers already, but no kind of training at all. Now I know that we're sort of seeing this with Rey, and you could argue that maybe she's been trained a little bit, but she just can kind of do anything. But we're kind of getting that with Baby Yoda as well, in that he's essentially not been born for that long. We get the impression that he's pretty much just been in this crib for however many years, but he can do all of these force things seemingly just out of a feeling with no training. So
I think it's fair. It's a weird one. I mean, it would have been weird if he shot lightning at her.
That'll be coming in the last episode, I bet.
I just think it's one of them where he's just a toddler that's just unhinged. Like it's just probably a feeling. Because the episode where he lifts that ball thing up, he literally just lifted it up in the air, didn't really do anything. That's more, I think, him just wanting to protect Mandalorian. But obviously, what came from that was we have the client. We can jump on that.
Yes, we'll get to the ending now. So they go to this compound, and there's scout troopers and a bunch of stormtroopers, way more stormtroopers than they initially anticipated there to be. And the client, so obviously this is spoiler alert. Everyone watching knows that we're going to spoil this episode, but he gets killed, and it's kind of a shame because we were just getting more dialogue from him, and the tension at the table when he sits them down was great, and the way that he talks and the way that he uses his sentence is such a really creepy, interesting Star Wars character. And then he's killed, and I want to know more about him. That's the frustrating thing.
What I really liked of this was that he's clearly a very smart guy. Just through his conversations in previous episodes of The Mandalorian, it's been some of the most interesting dialogue of the series. I want to say, and we get this kind of moment where when they say, "Oh, but the baby is sleeping," it's kind of like, is he calling their bluff, or does he believe in the baby sleeping? But we get a transmission. I have to take this call. Very gentlemanly thing to say. And then we get our first introduction to Gus from Breaking Bad, who is Moff Gideon, was it? Something like that?
I think it is. I'm just going to double check. Finally, after every week, speculating that this is going to be the episode where he shows up, he finally shows up this episode, which is good. Let me have a look. Moff Gideon. Yeah.
And we get him on the traditional sort of hologram. Oh, the baby's sleeping. What's he like? That's fine. We'll continue. He says some dastardly, villainous line, and then they all get taken out. Old school mafia 1930s gangster film. They've got their Tommy guns. What's better than the hooded man in a hat? Death Troopers. They're back. Yep, they're back with a bang. The client is wiped out. He is dead. Didn't see that coming at all, which I kind of really love at the same time. Same as you, I'd love to learn more about him. I'd love to know his role in the previous years. I really hope there's a visual dictionary book somewhere that comes out to learn more about him. The character is just very fascinating, and to see Werner Herzog in Star Wars is a very strange thing to see still, especially after hearing more and more about him recently. But then we get this brilliant moment of every sort of stormtrooper in the region coming down, and we get a TIE fighter land. Out steps the villain, Gus from Breaking Bad, in what looks like TIE pilot costume. Someone's
JXC there,
looks like that of an Inquisitor. Could be that as well. But this is, Star Wars, you'll know that Moff is always the higher sort of the not the general term, but it's a military ranking. Grand Moff Tarkin, the Moffs are irrelevant higher people. Obviously, this is a couple of after nines. There's probably not many Moffs left. He might have made himself a Moff. You never know. But we get a big cliffhanger. But even before that, we've got our Mandalorian and Gina Carano in peril. So they're kind of lurking. And then the transmissions, they spot it's a trap. And then we've got...
We get the line drop as well. It's a trap. Gina Carano says it. But I'm not saying you can't say the phrase "it's a trap" in Star Wars ever again, but I'm just saying there's going to be... My ears are going to prick up every time that comes up in Star Wars.
It wasn't as dramatic, swivel to the camera, screaming. Yeah. But the big thing was we've got Baby Yoda on the edge of the desert. We've got scout troopers on speeder bikes, which was great to see, chasing down Nick Nolte's Ugnaught.
Genuine tension in this bit. Like, the editing was great, how it kept cutting back, and it was, the close-up of Nick Nolte, and he's almost at the ship, and you can see the speeders getting there. I was genuinely, I hate to say, like, edge of my seat. Like, I had more tension in this moment than anything in episode 9, which is really telling. But I think it was just because Baby Yoda, I'm so protective of this character.
Yeah. And it's a smart story choice, because that's the one character from the series that if it's in peril, you are naturally concerned about.
Yeah.
And we have, I would say, really nice bit of editing, where we've obviously got Mando shouting down the comic. I'm sure films have done it before.
Mm-hmm.
I remember, I think, I've not seen The Wire, but there is like the famous "Oh, where's Idris Elba" clip, if anyone's ever seen that. Where's Springer? Where's Springer? I love that kind of talk where they're talking on a microphone. They don't know the other person's there.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of have this shot of Baby Yoda on the floor. He gets scooped up by a speeder bike, so we know that he's in the enemy's hands. And then we have the devastating final shot of Nick Nolte lying down, steam coming out of his body. The stormtroopers actually killed someone. Plot twist.
Mm-hmm.
Cliffhanger.
Cut to black. And I wanted it to carry on. I wanted episode 8 right there and then. Now, I don't know if we said this as well, but IG-11's been reprogrammed now by Nick Nolte's character, Taika Waititi's character from episode 1. I wasn't too keen on his character in episode 1, but I like him now. I like the little sort of story that he's gone on, that he died, and he's almost like a Terminator. He's like the T-800, how he's been sort of reprogrammed, and now he's sort of fighting on the side of the angels a little bit. I think in episode 8, because he's the one character they haven't really brought up, he's going to come back. He's going to go into full-on attack mode again, like in episode 1, I think. My one concern is that I really don't want them to kill Moff Gideon. I really don't, because they've got rid of the client, and I think when you've got an actor of that caliber and they've only just introduced him in episode 7, I think that would do a disservice to the character and the story if you kill him off in episode 8. I want to know more about what's going on. The client as well, because they did apprehend Baby Yoda in episode 3, I believe it was, wasn't it? And there was the scientist guy. Did they want to give it to the Empire, or were they kind of working in their own agenda for it?
I think they took what they needed, but I think the scientist guy kept saying that they wanted to kill him, and I kept him alive.
Right.
But I don't know. I'm very intrigued to see what happens with it. I'm the same as you. I want Moff Gideon to be in the next. We know they're filming season 2 right now in America. That's well known. It's all over Filoni and Favreau's Instagram. I really hope he's in it still. It would be a shame to introduce. We've had so many characters introduced and they've gone with an episode or 2. Losing I can understand why something like Werner Herzog might not want to be sort of tied into a series, but we've got not Gus from Breaking Bad, but Giancarlo Esposito. He's done Breaking Bad, fantastic villain. He appeared at the end of The Boys season 1 as the tee up for the big villain in season 2. We've got him in this, and it would be a real shame to have that like him for 2 episodes. I think he'll be in it longer.
It's a great introduction as well. That's why it'd be frustrating if they do get rid of him. It's an amazing introduction to a villain.
When you have Star Wars has been very good at introducing not over the top villains, but pure villainous character. Coming out the TIE fighter, wiping out his own team, having Death Troopers as well at his disposal. That is interesting, and it's the same as Breaking Bad. Every time he speaks a word, you kind of hang on the line.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
When he speaks, you listen. Not that you don't listen in TV, but he's one of those few actors where everything he says is normally great. So
yeah, he commands your presence, doesn't he? Instantly.
Yeah.
Whenever he says anything.
And it's made me really excited for 8 because we've got the loss of an individual. We've got Baby Yoda in peril. We've got our protagonist trapped in a desolate situation. Is IG-11 going to see his dad be dead and turn into the Iron Giant? And we will find out this Friday. Directed by Taika Waititi as well, which is very interesting. There's some really funny stories. I've seen them online that apparently he rocked up to set in pajamas and dressing gowns and stuff and directed people, and it was so weird. They loved him. I'm really excited for it. And especially of the downer of the last few weeks, getting back to episode 7 was really important to me.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's like we kind of both said, we would tame on episode 6 because episode 7's happened. If episode 7 hadn't happened or been done, I think it'd be real hard for them to recover it.
I think having a good, solid penultimate episode before the ending, that's definitely helped it. It's piqued my interest again. I mean, I've stuck with it. I mean, I haven't like dropped off the series or anything like that, but I do think that this should have been like a 5-episode miniseries. It didn't need to be 8.
I mean, we know,
clearly, as we've said.
We know with Kenobi, just off a tangent, they've said already that 6 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
And then what's given me more hope that the director of this episode was Deborah Chow, who directed episode 3, which is my second favorite episode of this.
Yeah.
And she's going to direct all 6 episodes of Kenobi. I'm excited for that project anyway, but I think, she's had 2 episodes on a Star Wars TV series now. I'm very intrigued that they've given her an entire series, and I think that could be really cool. It's not to compare to 8 and 9 again, but yesterday we both kind of discussed that you had 2 different directors at episode 8 and episode 9. One director doing all of them would have been easier for an ending of this. And Mandalorian's been fine because that Filoni and Favreau were kind of calling the shots as the 2 guys. But I think it'll help Kenobi having that same director to deal with the showrunner and the writers and the actors. Obviously, there seems to be no hassle with The Mandalorian. Everyone seems fine on set. There's no dodgy set reports, no nothing. The episodes have been okay. Even the bad ones, not bad direction, I guess you can say. More issues with the story and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's a very nice environment, but I'm excited to see her now do more Star Wars stuff.
My one stipulation now for episode 8 is that I want answers. I do want it to kind of tell me what this story's about. If they do want to set up I'm aware that it's a TV show and I'm aware that it's like incredibly popular. I know that Disney Plus has just started and there's not really that much content on there at the moment, but it is kind of the flagship thing for Disney Plus. And I'm sure it will be when it gets released in the UK and other countries as well. But I know they're going to keep some things open-ended. I know they're going to set some things up for a season 2, but I do want some kind of narrative finality or direction and knowing where it's going in the next episode. I don't want it just to be like fun action. I need some kind of substance to the story and to see where this is going. Either some information on Baby Yoda or Moff Gideon, the greater plan to this whole thing. And if we get that and we get like some good action, which I'm sure we are going to, then I think it's going to be a really solid end to the series. Maybe we will get a Boba Fett cameo at the end, like you speculated at the end of episode 5. I hope not, because I think that will do a disservice to the characters in this. But yeah, I'm back on board with it. I am more hyped for episode 8 of The Mandalorian than I was for Star Wars episode 9, which is quite a trip. But, it just goes to show, like, I'm not done with Star Wars. When Star Wars is good, I enjoy it, and it's great. And this was fantastic, and it's nice to get back to Mandalorian solid episodes. Yeah, it's weird having a TV show. I know I already talked about this, but having a TV show that I've now got to wait a week for. It's not like, The Witcher that's just come out on Netflix, which I do want to check out, and we probably will have reviews on that at some point where they've just, there you go, there's your 10 episodes, get on with it. It's nice to actually have these moments where we can speculate about an upcoming episode rather than just binge watch it in one sitting.
That's what I'm like. I mean, I love a binge. I'll always say this. I'll wait for a lot of shows. Watchmen, I really want to watch.
Yeah, I still need to watch that too.
I've heard nothing but incredible things about it, apparently, as it went on. Watching shows weekly, it's the best way to keep people on the edge of their feet, keep it going, word of mouth out, all of that Shazam. Baby Yoda is a cultural icon. He's on the front cover of Time magazine now.
He's made it. He's made it in Hollywood.
It's insane. And if all the 8 episodes dropped together, I think Baby Yoda, it would be a thing, but I don't think it'd be as big as it is now. Because it'd all be and it's day, and each week you've got a gradual Baby Yoda sort of meme, gif, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it just goes to show the strength. I mean, I know that Game of Thrones finished poor, but when you were getting Game of Thrones weekly, when it was great, when you had this amazing thing, oh my god, the Red Wedding happened. What's going to happen next week? That kind of vibe that, shows are done better on a weekly basis. And, as much as Netflix are putting stuff out to binge, I did all 3 seasons of Stranger Things in about 2 weeks. I really enjoyed that. Great fun with that. I haven't really spoke about Stranger Things since July.
Yeah.
And this Mandalorian is on the news today. This has overtaken Stranger Things as the most streamed show in America of the year, which is incredible, seeing as there's 3 seasons of Stranger Things and a pre-existing build-up. Obviously, this is Star Wars, so it is its own entity, but fact that Disney Plus has took the fight to Netflix inside like a month and already overtook its streaming, biggest show of the year. It shows a lot is capable for this, and I think that the guys producing this come up with the idea that they could have easily done a Boba Fett TV series. I think they know it too. They kind of all said it together, but the fact we do have someone that we don't know anything about as well, we don't even need to learn anything about the Mandalorian's background. There's some plot points to which I hope they address, which to get some closure, as you mentioned on Series 1, I think ultimately the main thing I think we need to learn is, why Baby Yoda? Why did they need him? That is essentially the core plot point of Season 1, because we've still got the question from Episode 1. And, I'm happy for open-ended things for the Season 2s and whatnot, but you ultimately need to tie up the season story arc. You can set things up, of course, but great TV shows will always address the core story of that said season, and then something new can carry over into Season 2 or set up something for Season 2. So I've got a lot of faith in them. I've got a lot of trust in Taika for next week as well.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if it does have a different style to it because, obviously his reputation precedes him on all of his projects and everything like that, whether it be Thor Ragnarok, which is distinctly different from the other Thor movies, even most of the other Marvel movies, really. He does put his own stamp on things, but I hope it's not too much of a distracting stamp. And I hope it's a good episode because it'll be a real shame that we've had this build up with this episode if it does come crashing down. But I've got high hopes for next episode, and then it'll be a shame. It'll be like, right, on to the next TV show then, and then however long we've got to wait until Mandalorian, because I've got a lot of other Star Wars projects lined up. I don't know if they're going to sort of take top billing until we get another Mandalorian series. But as you said, like if this is the most streamed TV series, like Baby Yoda being everywhere, just cluttering my news feed, which I'm totally fine with every single day on a daily basis. I think they might want to try and, while the strike while the iron's hot, essentially, and get another one out there. But Friday next week, I think it is, isn't it? It's back to the normal Friday time. We'll be back probably at the weekend again next week. Actually, let me have a look at the calendar, because what are our dates looking like for next week? Because we've got Christmas and New Year coming up. So, 28th, perfect.
I'm about next week. Star Wars was my Christmas. I've got no money left to do anything now. So I will be getting this done on Friday. I will be not sending it to everybody because I would never ever do that, but I will make sure people watch this episode.
You're not the hero we deserve, but the one that we need. Every Friday I'm just like waiting there with bated breath on my chat. Like, come on.
Every single week, not that I'm going to spoil a moment from episode 9, but there's this great moment where an individual character looks up to a crowd and he kind of like does this weird like shimmy side to side. That's me every week when I send Mandalorian to people. Just that moment of him just looking up at his followers. That's me next Friday.
Yeah, I'll be watching this next Friday too. We'll be back at the weekend. I will quickly do the socials. If you want to see when we go in live, we will be scheduling it ahead of time. So for Mandalorian season finale, that's Facebook/Cinema Savvy, Twitter Cinema_Savvy. Follow us there. Check out times when we know when we're going live. And if there's a video before, or if not, we'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you to everyone tuning in, by the way.